A stingray killed one. Someone fell and died. And someone died during a live TV show where everyone could see everything from Steve Irwin's terrible experience with the stingray to Brandon. Here are 50 artists and actors who died live on Lee's fatal start on stage 1. Steve Irwin. On a September day in 2006, the ocean brought in one. Steve Irwin. Stephen Irwin, better known as the Crocodile Hunter, was in a lot of danger while shooting near Australia's Great Barrier Reef. A stingray that was shot by Irwin hit him with its poisonous barb. The barb went through his chest. Even though his crew worked quickly to save him, Irwin died before help could come. He was 44 years old. People all over the world loved him because of how excited he was about nature and how famous he was. On his TV shows, he showed the wonders of wildlife to people all over the world, making them want to protect the environment. Even after he died, his family and the Australia Zoo kept doing the work he loved, which kept his love for the world alive. 2. Stephen Lee. Brad Lee made a terrible mistake in March 1993 while shooting the scene for The Crow. Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son, met a sad end on a Hollywood set where a prop gun that was thought to be safe had a. There was a secret danger. A fake round was stuck in the barrel, so when a blank was fired, it behaved like a bullet. Hit Lee in the gut. At first, the cast and crew didn't know what had happened, but Lee soon told them the truth. A woman only 28 years old died in the accident that made Hollywood pay attention to safety. Lee was almost a big star, and The Crow was going to make his big break in September with Maria Callas. 3. Maria Callas. It was a sad day for everyone when the famous opera singer Maria Callas died in 1977. 53-year-old singer had a heart attack in her Paris apartment, far from the big shows where she used to dance. Call's death marked the end of an age in classical music. Her performances were unique because they combined perfect technique with a beautiful voice. From Verdi to Bellini, she played every part with a lot of feeling, making each one unforgettable. As her voice got stronger, even though she got worse with age, her music was still a model for other singers to follow. 4. Moliere. On February 14, Jean-Baptiste Ban, better known as Moliere, gave his life to the stage. 1673, he was on stage with his play L'Allada Imaginaire. By some strange turn of events, he was pretending to be a hypochondriac when he started coughing violently during the show, and wouldn't stop until the end of the performance. But he passed out afterward and died at home a few hours later. With their smart humor and sharp criticism, plays like Tart and the Misanthrope changed French theater for good. Of society, but his death caused a stir at the time players where people were not usually allowed to be buried in church graves. Only with the king's help was Moliere able to get an exception, which shows how 5 Tommy Cooper died on April 15, 1984, after being deeply affected by his work in the arts. 5. Joe Cooper Tommy. During a live TV show, comedian Tommy Cooper, who loved performing live, passed out on stage in front of the crowd. People laughed because they thought it was part of his act, but it wasn't a joke. Cooper had a heart attack and died in front of them. Cooper was loved by millions for his awkward magic tricks and funny attitude. Even in his last moments, he made people laugh by turning mistakes into comedy. 6. Karl Walla. On March 26, 1978. 6. Karl Wallenda. Karl Wanda was a high-wire artist who loved doing dangerous stunts. He died at the age of 73. He tried to walk along a tightrope between 2 buildings in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Started the Flying Wandas, a group known for shows that put people in danger. As I watched Wenda step onto the wire high above the ground, I could tell that the rope wasn't stable because of the strong winds. Wenda tried hard to fight the wind, but he failed. He fell 40 meters and died. The crowd shocked 7. Leonard Warren. On March 4, 1960. 7. Richard Leonard. In Ver la Forza del Destino, a famous opera singer whose voice filled grand theaters with power and feeling. The Metropolitan Opera in New York, where his baritone singing wowed the crowd. At the end of the night, tragedy struck when Warren sang the line "To die a momentous thing." He suddenly fell down on stage, which was shocking. At first, people were confused, But they soon realized that the terrible truth was that Warren had died right then and there from a brain bleed. The stage became his last moment in the Shine a Light on 8 Sid James on a live show called The Mating Season in 8. Sid James. Sunderland on April 26, 1976. Tragedy struck Sid James, a well-liked man. In the Carry On movies, the British entertainer was known for making people laugh. His charm and raspy voice made him a star. Fans favored James fell down on stage. At first, the crowd thought it was part of the show and laughed, but as after a few seconds, it was clear that something was seriously wrong. Even though people rushed to help, James died of a heart attack. 9-year-old Lee Morgan on a cold night in February 19, 1972. Lee was 62 years old. 9. Jones, Lee Morgan, a great jazz trumpet player known for making strong and soulful music, was playing at Slug's Saloon, a famous jazz club, in a New York City club where his skill wowed the crowd. But the night went from magical to tragic, and Morgan got into a heated argument with Helen Moore, his common-law wife. The argument quickly got worse, and Helen shot Morgan out of anger in front of the shocked crowd. The lively club went quiet, and Morgan ran for help, but it was too late. One of jazz's biggest stars had died at age 33. The tragedy was made worse by Morgan's troubled relationship with Helen, who had been there for him through it all. He went through some hard times and then killed himself out of anger. 10 Red Fox on October 11th. 10 Red Fox. During rehearsals for his show, The Royal Family Red Fox in 1991, legend who changed American TV forever and was famous for his big laughs. Signs, everyone thought it was a joke at first, but Fox didn't get it. When he woke up, the teen knew right away that something was wrong. He had a massive heart attack and died despite getting help quickly. At age 68, the lively set, which used to be full of laughter, went quiet and sad. 11. Vic Morrow. While making Twilight Zone, the movie in 1982, Vic Morrow, who was known for, he died tragically while filming a scene where he was playing a big role. They dragged 2 kids across a set that looked like a war zone, and bombs went off. A helicopter flew dangerously close above, and all of a sudden, the chopper crashed. It was sure death for Morrow and their 2 children, Micah Leigh and Renee Sheehan. The accident shocked Hollywood and led to lawsuits and criminal charges. It also started an argument about how safe movie sets should be. How far should movie makers go to make scenes look real? At what point does the risk become too high? 12 Sarah Bernhardt by 12. With Sarah Bernhardt, 1923. Sarah Bernhardt, also known as Divine Sarah, was a famous actress whose powerful performances captivated crowds, but her health was getting worse, and she had to have one leg cut off. But still insisted on appearing on a farewell tour. She passed out on stage, putting on Bernhardt's excitement for acting even while I show her. She had a deep love for theater and changed it forever with her emotional. During shows, her falling down on stage became a sign of how passionate she was. 13 Dmitrievsky and artists look up to her as an example of how to work hard at Art 13. Voristovsky Dmitry J. 2017 at a show in Moscow, Dmitry Visky, a famous opera singer, with a voice that it felt like velvet, gave his last show, which was known for his deep emotions. With his singing and strong street-age personality, Vor Osofsky moved people. But things got sad for him when he was told he had brain cancer. Even though he was sick, he kept singing until he died. His voice broke during that last event. It was a sad moment that showed how determined he was to keep going. Even though he was sick, Vor's singing was unforgettable when he sang psalms by Verdi and Tchaikovsky like no one else. His last show made people wonder how artists keep doing what they do. Love When Their Bodies are giving out 14 Sarah Gargio on June 29, 2013. 14. It's Sarah Guyard-Gillett. Tragedy struck Sarah Guyard-Gu at a show at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. She was an aerial artist with more than 20 years of experience who did work in Cirque du Soleil, where her daring stunts while acting 990 feet above the ground amazed people. The stage, her belt broke and she fell. The crowd was shocked. The first time an artist died on stage in Cyrus Saul's history was when Gargio was pushed. People thought more about safety and dangerous acts after she died. New safety rules were made after the accident, but people still remember her fall. It brings up a hard. How can we enjoy the beauty of daring art while keeping the artist safe? 15 Lester Young by 1959 Lester Young, who was also known as 15. Lester Young, a jazz legend who changed the way the saxophone was played, was in poor health and battling with drug abuse. During a show at Birdland in New York City, he passed out. Fame, emotional problems, and bad health had taken toll. Young played with greats like Billie Holiday and the Count Basie Band Orchestra, and his smooth, soulful sound moved millions of people and cemented his place in jazz history. But his sad death makes people wonder, was music his escape or his burden? 16 Louis Vier on June 2, 1937, at Notre 16. Louis Vierne, at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. Louis Vier was a famous organist and songwriter who people came to hear his last show, which was filled with beautiful music. Silence fell over the crowd as they listened to the strong sounds of the organ. As soon as Vienne played his last note, he fell to the organ bench and couldn't get up. Passed out from a heart attack and died right there. It was a sad, and Vienne had often said he wanted to die while living his life, which made this strangely perfect. Had been through a lot, like almost going blind and having personal problems, but he always stayed committed to music. 17 Dick Shawn on April 17, 1987, during 17. Dick Shawn, an act at the University of California, San Diego by the comic Dick Shawn, who is known for his crazy and his unpredictable style, led to a funny and biting act full of energy and satire that he loved shocking his audience with, and making people laugh with his unique sense of humor during his show. People thought Shawn's sudden fall was part of his act and laughed while they waited for the next joke. Soon, they stopped laughing because they knew something was wrong. Someone from the crew ran to check on him and found out Shawn had died of a heart attack. He was 63 years old and was doing what he loved when he died. 18 Barbara Weldons on July 19, 2017, during a show in 18. Sheila Weldons. Barbara Welds, a skilled French singer-songwriter with a gift for she captivated the crowd with her powerful voice while making emotional and poetic music. The room was filled with everyone was moved to tears by her act, which was deeply sad. There was an electrical accident at the show, and Weldons fell down on stage and died right away. She was only 35 years old. The crowd was shocked and couldn't believe what had just happened. 19 Nick 19. Nick Menzimena on May 21, 2016, while he was playing with his band at a jazz club in Studio City, California. Nick Menemed is known for being the strong drummer. All of a sudden, his powerful energy fell apart behind his drum kit. At first, people in the crowd thought it might be part of the show, but as soon as it became clear, paramedics ran to the scene. When they got there, it was too late. Menza, who was only 51 years old, had already died. Well known for playing drums on records like Rust in Peace, had a heart attack and had to leave. A lasting mark on heavy metal songs. 20 Mark Sandman at the 20. The Mark Sandman, the lead singer and founder of Morphine, was in the middle of the Nel Gome del Rock Festival in Palestrina, Italy, of a performance when he quickly passed out. The 46-year-old had a Sandman's work with Morphine was devastated by his death from a heart attack among friends and fellow musicians. Made a unique low rock sound that stood out in alternative rock is. The music was changed by minimalist beats and soulful vocals. 21 Alexander Walcott. 21. Theodore Woolcott on January 23, 1943, during a live broadcast of People's Platform to talk about World War II. Alexander Walcott was a sharp and funny writer, playwright, and Walcott, a culture figure, made brilliant comments that held people's attention while he spoke. He had a massive heart attack and passed out in front of his co-panelists and the live crowd. Walcott's sharp mind and work in theater and writing came as a surprise to everyone who knew him. Had an important effect on American society. 22 Felix Bart in his last days. 22. Joe Bressert Felix. Felix Bertrand is a German actor who is known for being able to mix fun and sadness. He went back to the stage after running away from Nazi persecution, where he had found fame. Nanaka and To Be or Not to Be were American movies that became classics. Live show, he had a fatal heart attack and passed out in front of the people who had come to see him. Artistry. His sudden death ended a life full of strength and imagination. 23 Edwin Booth one night during one of his last shows. 23. Theodore Booth. One of the most famous actors of the 1800s, Edwin Booth, quickly passed out. Famed for giving great performances in Shakespeare's plays, especially Hamlet, Booth had made history on stage. But his brother, who became famous for a terrible act in American, got in the way of his life. Booth worked hard to make a name for himself, but playing was really what he loved. He gave his whole life to his love. At first, the audience thought his fall was part of the play. Realized the truth. The great star had just finished his last show. 24. When Joseph Jefferson Wadsworth was a star in the 1910 play The Belle of New York. 24. William Wadsworth Joseph Jefferson. In one scene, Jefferson Wadsworth gave his parts everything he had. Character had to act like they were dying. No one in the crowd knew what would happen next as Wadsworth played the death scene. He suddenly fell down for real. At first, everyone laughed, thinking. They thought it was part of the show, and then there was quiet. People filled the hall as they learned the truth. Wadsworth had died. This tragic event made everyone think of how fragile life is and how much artists care about their jobs. 25. Joe Luciano Tajoli. Luano Tati died on September 3, 1961, while on stage in Venice. Tajoli was a famous Italian singer whose love songs moved a lot of people. Tragically died while singing one of his most popular songs, Tadge's Heart Gave. He lost his voice and fell to the stage, leaving the crowd shocked and confused. They couldn't believe what they had just seen. In an instant, the voice that had made so many people happy was gone. When Tadge died, Italy was sad, and his fans remembered him as a culture icon. Many people remember him through his songs. 26. Jep Cremonini in 1904 during and 26. Tom's Giuseppe Cremonini. The performance by J.P.E. Cremonini, whose voice was strong and full of. Everyone who heard Cremonini sing felt moved to tears as he sang in one of Italy's most famous opera houses. At his most moving area, the crowd was in awe as his voice hit its highest point and filled the room. Then all of a sudden he passed out. At first, people thought it was part of the show, but when he didn't move, they knew something very bad was going on. On a night in 1977, Cremonini had died right there on stage. 27. Malcolm Roberts. 27. John Malcolm Roberts. While singing Benjamin Britten's opera Owen Wingrave in Manchester, Malcolm Roberts, who is known for his deep, rich voice, the crowd with his strong presence, and emotional baritone voice that could move anyone who heard it. As Roberts was singing, the opera reached its most emotional moment. Collapsed for a second. The crowd thought it was part of the show, but then they saw that the terrible truth. He died on stage of a heart attack in the middle of his song 28. Ursula Bauer at a charity show in 1997. 28. Ursula Bauer. In Berlin, Ursula Bauer, who is known for her soprano roles in Beauty and the Beast, sang, as she had a unique way of combining technical skill with deep emotion that made her performance full of fire. Who heard her sing a beautiful song, Bauer's voice suddenly broke. The crowd had been mesmerized for a moment and watched in shock as she fell down. She died right there on stage from a brain tumor, turning a happy night into a sad one. 29. John Neville. 129. John Neville. Evening in Winnipeg in 2001. John Neville, a giant in Canadian theatre. He was known for giving intense Shakespearean performances, and he gave a monologue with the same intensity. Stumped by his every word, they stayed quiet until something shocking happened. Neville fell down on stage in the middle of the show. At first, the crowd wasn't sure if it was part of the play, or something more important. It was actually Neville who spent his whole life. His words brought many people to life. Died under the stage lights he loved so much. Many players are still moved by his work and passion. 30 Slavasov in 1988-30. Ilya Sokolov. During a show, Slava Sekov, who is famous in ballet as the lead dancer for the Bolshoi Theater, jumped into the audience. He had done this move exactly many times before, but this time something went wrong in the middle of his jump and his heart stopped. He failed, and he fell to the ground dead while the crowd stared in shock for a first. Everyone thought it might be part of the dance. Then it became clear that Sov had died while giving his all. 31. Maria Helena Arbola in 2005 at 31. Rosa Maria Arboleda. Event in Meng Maria Helena Arbola, the center of Colombian theater, took place. A monologue by herself on stage, her shows were so strong that they could make people laugh, cry, and feel deeply. People were listening to every word she said, and then, at her most emotional moment, she suddenly fell down. At first, everyone was shocked. They first thought it was part of the acid, but then they found out the truth. Bola had died of a heart attack. Shocked everyone in the room to quiet. Everyone who saw her will always remember how much she loved theater. Carry out 32 Vladimir Migula at a 32. Vladimir Migulia. In Moscow, Vladimir Mulia sang one of his songs at a charity event. His songs have brought joy and comfort to many people in Russia. Loved psalms with all his heart. As he sang the last notes, his voice got weak. The crowd, who was still cheering, didn't know what was going on at first when medics rushed to help him. It was clear that Mia's heart had stopped beating. His last show was the end of a life dedicated to music, but his psalms will live on. His skill and passion. Was it a cruel twist of fate that his last act was for such a good cause? 33 Bert 33. Bert Williams. Williams at a show in Detroit in 1922. Bert Williams made a big step forward. Performer in the United States in the early 1900s whose humor quickly broke down barriers fell on stage. At first, people thought it was part of his act. It wasn't until much later that it was clear Williams had died because complications from pneumonia. Williams decided to perform even though he was very sick. Showing how much he cared about, Williams was very good at what he did, and his sudden death left a big hole in American theater. Was his story one of triumph or sadness? 34. His creativity reminds us of the things we had to give up to follow a dream. 34. Good morning, Jack. Jack Pleasance during a show in 1924, and Jack Pleasance, who brought laughter to Edwardian crowds and made their days better with his humor. He stumbled in the middle of a joke, which made the audience laugh. They thought it was part of the act, but their joy turned to shock when they learned he had died of a heart attack. Jack Pleasance spent his whole life making people happy, and his last moments on stage showed how much he loved making people happy. People laugh about how his quick death put him in the spotlight, which he loved for all time. It makes us wonder, is the stage both a 35? John Palmer one night in the early 35. John Palmer, 1920s, John Palmer, a strong actor who held everyone's attention with every word, put on a dramatic show. During the height of an emotional scene, his body language and gesture broke. The crowd, captivated by his intensity, thought it was part of the show. When the curtain came down, the truth came out. Palmer had died of a heart attack. Shocked the world of theater by informing everyone of the stress that performers were under. Passion drive led to this tragic end. Or was it fate? 36. Joseph Greenwald. 36. Greenwald, Joseph. In Santa Barbara in the late 1930s, Joseph Greenwald was in Golden Boy. He loved the theater and he put a piece of his soul into every part he played and delivered a powerful scene that held the audience in awe. Then all of a sudden he stopped talking and fell down. At first, the crowd thought it was part of the show. Did they know at that moment that Greenwald had died of a heart attack when the stage lights went down? A big hole in the theater world, and his death brings up a scary question. How much can an artist give before the price is too high? 37. Simon Barrera on April 2, 1951, while he was playing 37. Sir Simon Barrera. Grieg's Piano Concerto in A minor at Carnegie Hall. Simon Barrera was a great pianist whose music told stories, mesmerized the crowd as he quickly played the keys, But all of a sudden, the music stopped. As he slouched forward, the hall went quiet. At first, people thought it was part of the show, but then they learned the terrible truth. It was clear that Barrera had a brain hemorrhage. He died right there on stage, with his last act still unfinished. 38 Angelo Mascaron in 1905, while giving one of his most moving performances. 38. Joe Mascheroni Angelo, an Italian musician named Angelo Mascaron, who is known for his emotional. People were mesmerized by music with songs like Forever and Ever, and his hands glidden over the piano, filling the room with beauty. Just as he reached the piece's peak, the music stopped. When Mascheroni fell, the crowd went silent in shock as they realized what they had done. Watched his last moments, and his death showed how fragile life is. It can end in the middle of creation. 39 Richard Versal on January 39. John Versal Richard, 5th, 1996, during a performance of Janac's The Macropus Case at the Met Opera. Richard Versal, a strong opera singer, sang a line that would become eerie prophetic, "Too bad you can only live so long." Moments later, he fell down, shocking the crowd at first. They first thought it was part of the ACT, but soon found out Versal had a heart attack. His death ended the opera. House in eerie silence. It was a scary reminder of how art and life can affect each other. Meet in sad and unexpected ways 40 George Frederick 40. Charles George Cook. As the show went on, George Frederick Cook, a famous Shakespearean player in the 1800s known for his intense performances in plays like Richard II and Macbeth, Cook fought with alcoholism and fell asleep on stage, which was bad for his health because years of suffering had made his body weak, and he couldn't go on. His dramatic death matched the fiery parts he played, leaving the story of sorrow and love. 41 Paul Mans on a hot July day in 1965 while flying a 41. Paul Mans. Special plane for the movie Flight of the Phoenix. Paul Mans is a well-known stunt pilot in Hollywood who is known for dangerous skills met a sad end. People respected and admired Mans for, as he did in movies, he made a deadly mistake when he flew low over a desert, and his plane hit a hidden mound of sand and broke apart when it hit Mans. He died right away, finishing a career built on 42 Gareth. He was brave and careful, and even though he's dead, his amazing acts will live on in movie history. 42. For Gareth Edwards. Edwards in a theatre in Cardiff. Gareth Edwards is a Welsh actor who is known for his During the Play. Powerful stage acts made Julius Caesar stand out. As the play hit its peak, his intensity captivated the audience. When Edwards suddenly passed out, people thought it was part of the ACT, but they soon realized he died of a heart attack in the middle of his art. 43 Whitehall Sr. at a charity event in 2011. 43. Dear Jack Whitehall Sr. The comedian, who was known for his quick wit and funny stories, made everyone in the room laugh. In the middle of his act, something surprising happened. Whitehall stopped as people noticed something was wrong. The laughter died down. He had a fatal stroke and died on stage. The spot where he had made people laugh so much became the site of his final act. 44 Cypus. More than 2,000 years ago, Cypus was a well-known Stoic. 44. Chrysippus. The story goes that a philosopher died in a strange way in 207 BCE. He gave wine to a laughed so hard they couldn't hold back as the donkey tried to eat figs. He laughed so hard that it killed him instantly. This story, though argued over, shows an interesting side of the great philosopher Chrysippus, who was known for his serious ideas, was thrown off by laughter. His story shows that even the most controlled minds can be overcome by the silly things that happen in life. 45 Al Kelly in 1966 at a Friar Club. 45. Al Kelly. Al Kelly, a famous vaudeville artist known for his funny double talk routines, did one of his signature acts. The crowd laughed out loud and clapped and cheered for his clever humor. As the applause ended, Kelly, when he went back to his place, he suddenly fell down. At first, people thought it was all part of the act and kept laughing. But the truth soon became clear. Had a heart attack that killed him. He died while doing what he loved, which was making people laugh. 46 Nicola. 46. Mary and Nicola Rossi Lamini. Rossi Lenny played Nicola Rossi Lamy during a show in Verona in 1991. Under the stage lights, an opera singer with a deep, strong bass voice sang an emotional aria. People all over the world were mesmerized by the performances, which filled grand theaters with sadness and passion in every note. People in the crowd were amazed at how powerful his voice was. Then, all of a sudden, he fell down. People in the theater thought it might be part of the show, but when the house went silent, Rossi's truth became clear. Lenny had given his last act, and attempts to save him failed and he passed. Away on stage 47, Jane Little during a show with 47. Jane Little. Jane Little was the conductor of the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra and held the Guinness World Record for the longest tenure of any conductor. The musician stood tall next to her double bass. She had joined the orchestra when she was 16 years old and paid 71 years to music, which shows how much she loved and cared about her art as the band played the song. There's No Business Like Show Business by Lively. Full of energy and performed with all her heart. But all of a sudden she fell down, and everyone in the room thought it was a tragedy. It looked like she was just part of the show, but soon it was revealed that Jane Little had died. Edith Webster Theater has a special treat for her last show on stage 48. 48. Edith Webster. You can find magic where life and acting meet. Edith Webster knew this for years because she brought stories to life in 1986 in Baltimore, Maryland. Words were turned on stage into powerful moments. That night, she played the drunkard in a play. Her commitment to the part left a permanent mark on the play. It was supposed to be a dramatic exit for the character to fall to the floor after singing "Please Don't Talk About It." Me When I'm Gone. She sang the song beautifully, and the crowd went crazy when she fell. Loudly praised Webster, but when the applause stopped, something was wrong. Had a heart attack and died on stage, just like she did in real life. Just as her characters did, the line between the story and real life blurred, leaving the readers in shock. 49. Owen Hart often goes through exciting and dangerous times in professional wrestling. 49. Owen Hart. Together, Owen Hart, a well-liked wrestler known for his skill and sense of fun, saw this balance on a May 1999 night. Hart was getting ready for a big entrance at WWE's Over the Edge event in Kansas City. He was supposed to jump from the ceilings and amaze the crowd, but something terrible went wrong and he had to stay safe. Hart fell from a very high place into the ring, and at first, a lot of people thought he was hurt. People thought it was part of the show, but when medics got there, they saw that it was a real IED 50 G. Rodale in 50. Jai Radek, 1972, when he went on the Dick Cavett show to share his story. G. Rodale, a leader in organic farming, a supporter of the healthy living movement, and a person who said he hoped to live to be 100 years old. People often said that taking care of yourself and living well could help you live a long time, but life had other ideas. Rodale suddenly sagged forward in his chair after making this bold comment. He had a heart attack and died. While the recording was going on, the crowd and host were shocked when the subject changed from health to something else, into a terrible tragedy.